So if there's anybody who has any potential complaint, it would be you.
Exactly.
Well, I kind of think that's straightforward. I hope so. But I think, hopefully the map did the trick for you.
Yeah, no, thank you.
You got 7 o'clock. This is so weird.
Hey, gal. How's it going?
Nice car.
You talking to me?
Yeah, talking to
This is
you.
not Wes. Wes has this.
We wondered who was
Got
pulling
home
in
after
that.
work. It was
What's this in
Let's
timeout?
see who gets out of
old
it.
school.
Frank or
My
Frankie?
older daughter was at home for a week. She went back to Ithaca. So
It's an old one.
Drive it once in a while.
the door's locked. Other door's locked. And all I had was just my car key. Because, no, I'm screwed. I'm locked out of my house.
All right, doesn't it?
I'm gonna do some checking the first floor windows. Everything. See if the windows are locked. Oh, son of a gun. So I got the later alley garage weapons. Second floor. One window was open. I got it. What?
That's amazing.
The last thing you want to deal with, because now I'm thinking, I gotta get to
Welcome to the June 22nd, 2021
all the stress.
meeting of the Town of Victor Planning Board. We'll start with the pledge to the flag. Don, that better?
He's fine. Oh, 6.
Yes, no?
That's better.
Before we start, I'll point out the emergency exits, which are to the right and left. Restrooms are out the entrance door to the left. Be sure to sign the attendance sheet at the back of the meeting room, even if you're a developer and are presenting an application. There are business cards at the back table next to the sign-in sheet to take with you with the email address and phone number for the planning department. Also on the back table is a copy of the resolutions that we read tonight, along with the agenda. Please turn off your cell phones or put them on silent. If you have to take a call, please take it out in the hall. And same goes for conversations. We have meeting minutes of May 25th, 2021. Everybody had a chance to look at them? Being the case, someone make a motion to approve.
I'll make the motion to
Joe makes the
approve.
move. Joe,
Can you hear me
Logan.
out there, Kim?
Second.
Can you hear me on the microphone? Okay.
Scott seconds. All in favor?
Aye.
Passed. Apparently, no correspondence? Okay. Okay, Ed, anything from town board?
Yeah, Susie, is this on? No?
Yes.
Yeah,
Can you hear me?
yeah. Well, I can hear you anyway, but
Okay. Well, probably, yeah. I probably don't need a microphone, but just a couple quick things. Next Monday at the next town board meeting, we're having a workshop at 6 PM regarding marijuana and cannabis, because that'll be coming up next as the state has okayed that. And we'll talk about dispensaries and what they mean and how that's going to affect planning and zoning and a variety of other topics. So that's it. That's all I got, Ernie. Thank you.
thanks, Ed.
Nice to be back in public.
Well, nice to see you. Nice to be seen, too. Any other boards or committees here? No? Okay, next time, what are we doing? Oh,
Give us
what thing?
You did such
I'll give you something to do, Kim.
Your next meeting is going to be July 13th with a public hearing for Frank Lill and Sons Storage Yard at 785 Old Dutch Road. The applicant is requesting approval to construct a 2-acre outdoor storage yard at the east end of the parcel for storage of piping and fittings. And then a sketch plan application for the Guinan Major Subdivision at 6465 County Road 41. The applicant is requesting an acknowledgement of a complete application to subdivide the 112-acre parcel into 2 lots. Lot 1 will consist of 50 acres, and Lot 2 will consist of 62 acres. And this is the first step in the major subdivision. Any questions?
Nope.
And then any carryovers from tonight, too.
Okay, thanks, Kim. All right, our first item on the agenda is Woods at Valentine reapproval. The Public hearing has long been closed, so this is not a public hearing, but tell us what happened since the last time here. Why you have to do
Good
this.
evening. Yeah, it's been quite a while since we've been back. James Creedicos with BME Associates, happy to be here. Fred Rinaldi with Woods of Allentown LLC. We're here to ask for reapproval for Woods of Allentown because it has lapsed since we were here. You guys granted approval for the project on April 23rd, 2019. And then, so as of April 23rd, 2020, it has expired. I did note in the letter of intent that the plans were actually signed by the chairman on 6/19/20, so it was already after that 1-year period where we would have been required to pull a building permit for the project. A couple reasons kind of led to what was going on. If you recall back in the March and April of 2019 meetings, we were kind of in the process of coordinating between the Victor Fire Department, the Water Authority, as well as the Department of Health on some of the backflow and pumping configurations that we needed to supply waters to sections 2, 3, and 4 of the project site. That coordination lapsed almost a whole year of time going back and forth. We had to get the health department involved and basically force the hand on the water authority. The water authority was trying to basically include extra requirements above and beyond what was allowable in the state. So once we kind of got that situated, we were able to get the approvals, and that's why we hadn't routed Mylars to be signed until shortly before that year date, but I think that was right at the beginning of COVID as well. And I know to get the plan signed here, there was a little bit of back and forth, and we were coordinating with Ms. Kinsella on that as well, so I know that we were, within what we thought were the correct parameters.
James, you said what was allowable by the state? Are you saying what was required by the state?
So basically, the water authority was saying that we couldn't have a private pump station located behind the backflow device. There had to be like a bunch of different measures of security and a ton of things that they were putting all these requirements on, and the health department was like, no, none of that's true. Like, you guys just need to do what the local town fire department wants you to meet. And after the RPZ, basically, it's a private system. They can do whatever they need to do for it. So once they kind of force the hand, I mean, we weren't trying to fight with the water authority. We want to create something that's workable and usable between all entities, the town, the owner, and the water authority. That way, in case of emergency, it's got backups, it's got security measures, and that thing. Basically, it had to do with the number of apartment units being up on the top of the hill with a certain number of emergency backups and fail-safes, essentially. So once we kind of worked through exactly what we were going to do and the plan and procedure, they were allowable to give us the approvals. And we still do need to go back once we do those to finalize details of the pumps, but the approval is essentially in place for that. And it is in place for Section 1, which is a typical RPZ backflow configuration.
Okay, great, thanks.
So kind of moving on with some of those other things that we were waiting to start the project on originally, the pump station 18 improvements, obviously we couldn't build a significant portion of our project until those had been completed. So that kind of delayed us with the very initial stages. Obviously the water authority stuff, further contributed to that. And then obviously in March of 2020 with COVID happening, the market fluctuations kind of went haywire. Material prices have been fluctuating up and down, and I know the Rinaldis want to have some very, high-end architectural features in these buildings, and a lot of the material costs, the stone, the wood, the steel, with the prices going up, we want to make sure that the project is deliverable as we've promised, to the board with all of those features. With that too, they kind of switched their focus to complete building 300, which has been well underway. So there is no plans to, deviate from continuing to work in the office park. I think just the focus and the urgency changed a little bit. So that's why we're looking to get this reapproved. So we will be looking to probably wrap up a lot of the back house stuff later this year, and then look to probably start construction sometime in the 2021 spring, early summer season. 2022, I'm sorry, thank you for correcting me. So I didn't know if we are actually allowed to request a 1-year approval instead of having to come back in December and then possibly again in March for the 3 months extensions. Obviously, we'd be happy to do that if there isn't a mechanism in place to do that, but I just figured we'd ask to try and save some time. I'd be happy to get into The engineering details, again, if you guys have questions on that or some of the site plan stuff, we were basically thinking we were going to send back in the same Mylars to just have them redated with the same signatures of all the agencies. So we're proposing no changes to what you guys had approved back in 2019. So Fred would be happy to answer any questions, building related or kind of process or anything
Sounds
else about our
pretty straight-
processes.
Straightforward to me. Scott, you have anything?
I don't have any questions.
It's real straightforward to me, too.
Other Joe?
No objections.
All set.
Me too. So I have a resolution. Shall I read? This is the Woods at Valentine reapproval, High Point Drive. Today's date, 6/22/21, application number 16 SP 2021. Whereas the planning board made the following findings of fact, and there are three. Now therefore it be resolved at the request of James Criticos of BME Associates on behalf of Woods at Valentine LLC, 205 St. Paul Street, Suite 210, Rochester, New York, for reapproval of site plan entitled Woods at Valentine, drawn by BME Associates, dated December 2018, last revised April 9, 2020, received by the Planning Board June 2, 2021, Planning Board application number 16 SP 2021, be approved with the following conditions. Conditions to be addressed prior to the chairman's signature on the site plan. One, that no final signatures will be given on the plans until all legal and engineering fees have been paid as per fee reimbursement local law adopted November 25, 1996. Ongoing conditions, one, that the site plan comply with the Town of Mitchell Design and Construction Standard Land Development, including Section 4, construction standards. A two-year maintenance bond shall be provided by the developer to the town for all the improvements to be offered to the town for dedication. Maintenance bond shall be written by a surety licensed to do business in New York State, and they shall be in the amount of 10% of the final construction cost as determined by the engineer for the town. 3, should an underground stream be encountered during construction, the developer is to address the encroachment and impact to the underground stream to the satisfaction of the town engineer. 4, that a pre-construction meeting shall be held prior to the start of construction. 5, that the building design plan shall be consistent with the architectural/landscape details as shown on the elevations and details drawn by Hanlon Architects and dated December 26, 2019, as discussed at the March 26, 2019 Planning Board meeting. 6, that no certificate of occupancy shall be issued for any building until such time as at least one of the following is met. A, that an updated sanitary sewer conveyance system evaluation is performed by the town engineer, and the town engineer confirms in writing that the sanitary sewer conveyance system could accommodate anticipated flows for buildings where a certificate of occupancy is sought. If said certificate of occupancy is sought prior to the completion and operation of the town's 2018 sanitary conveyance improvements project, also known as the Auburn Trail Sanitary Sewer Project. And B, that upon written confirmation from the town engineer that the 2018 sanitary conveyance improvements project is online and operating, and that such confirmation indicates that sewer flows from the Woods at Valentine project can be accommodated. And be it further resolved that the planning board secretary distribute the planning board's approval letter.
Ernie?
Yep.
James made a comment about a year approval versus 6 months?
Yeah, well, I mean, like I said, we're planning on starting in the 2022 season, so, 6 months from now would put us into December. So, we'd be happy to come back and ask for a 3-month extension then, and another one if it's not
Guess my question
possible.
is, do we want to just address that in this document so they don't have to come back to the board?
Can we do it?
That's my question,
My question.
yeah.
I don't know the answer.
Can we put a provision in that shall be ascertained by our, town attorney?
Ernie, yeah?
We can meet you halfway and just come in for a 6-month extension in December, if
And
that
that's
if that works.
Fine, I just didn't know if there was even a reason to force them to do that, or,
I don't know if we can do that.
That's fine.
It's in the code.
If you guys are going to make it as easy as this meeting was, I don't think I have any issues coming
Okay.
back.
All right, I just want to make sure that we addressed his remark, and
Yep.
that if we don't need to, then fine. And Fred's looking at it.
Yeah. Ernie, I don't dislike your idea. If it is okay, if it's copacetic with law, that it be determined by council after this meeting, if you guys deem appropriate, it would be of great peace of mind, just in light of everything that we had the 12 months to get our affairs in order to start this project.
Well, here's what we can do. We can have Kim get in touch with the town attorney and see if this can be done. And if it can be done, what's the board think about extending it for a year?
Yeah, I think the general consensus, I was seeing nodding of heads, that this is a reasonable thing to do. Can we write in a provision that if the town attorney agrees, that we put that in?
You can add
part
that.
of the resolution? Provisional thing.
Yeah.
If it's not approved, it's not approved. You come back in 6 months.
Okay?
You all right with that?
Thank you,
That's my recommendation.
I think that's a good recommendation.
I like it.
thank you.
Okay.
So, yeah, if you can put that in. Thanks, Ernie.
Okay, somebody move the resolution?
I'll move it.
Scott moves it, second.
I'll second, yeah, or Joe, give it to
Joel, Lindbeck.
And all in favor?
Aye.
Okay, yeah, all set on this?
Wonderful. Thank you guys very much.
You're welcome. The next item is Willow Rise Townhomes, 07FS 2021, Zone Multiple Dwelling, McMahon Road, tax map number 28.36-2-1.000, owner Isabella Estates LLC. Applicant is requesting reapproval to create 45 residential townhomes on approximately 6.4 acres. Access drive known as Banjo Run is accessed from Erica Trail, located in Ballerina subdivision. They received planning board approval on September 22, 2020. And this public hearing is still open on this one. No? That's what we're going to hear. Okay. No public hearing. It's been closed already. Yeah.
Good evening, I'm Walt Baker with TSB Engineers. With me tonight is Frank Afrani of Bella Estates LLC. And as the chairman stated, we're here tonight for reapproval of the 45 townhomes. The board's very familiar with this site. Obviously, we started it, I don't even remember how many years ago, with apartment project, then converted it over to townhomes for sale. And obviously, with the past events of the past year or so, with the COVID situation and trying to get approvals, we finally received our approval from New York State DEC. It only took a year to get it. But every time you call them, they're only working 1 day a week and all that. And so things got a little slowed down with everybody's departments, including New York State Health Department, which that is our final step as far as getting approval. So we're closer. And obviously, we exceeded the time period, the 6-month time period. So,
Well, as you heard, it's happened before to other people, so
yeah, it happened.
we're aware of it.
Yeah, it hit home too, so it was kind of a rough year.
We've experienced the same thing at my firm with
Yeah.
DEC and other state agency delays, so
Oh, yeah.
he's
Yeah.
sympathetic to that.
Yeah, Monroe County Health Department, they weren't taking plans, they were only taking, they learned how to take PDFs, and that was it. They'd give us approvals on projects, they just give us a letter, they wouldn't sign the Mylars. So, yeah, it's been a little different, so hopefully things will get back to normal. Like I mentioned, DEC, I do have the official approval letter from them. We're working with Cheryl at New York State Health Department to get that cleaned up, and then the Water Authority will be ready to sign once the Health Department's ready. So,
Okay.
yeah, hopefully we can get it done in 6 months.
That's good. You want to have the same provision that we just,
Yes, sir, I read through the draft.
the request that the Woods at Valentine had to
Oh, if we could, yeah, that's fine.
extend it a year.
It might not hurt, and we'll be back in December as well. So,
So what's your anticipated schedule?
we'd like to get it done before December.
We want to start as soon as possible.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, he's already, the engineer's estimate's been submitted. The BSP 5 and all that other incidentals that we had to take care of it's just chasing down the agencies.
So the provision may be moot, but I don't have an objection adding it in as well.
Yeah.
Yeah, hope we don't need it.
Oh, if you don't need it, you don't need it.
Right, right.
Oh, I guess I should say that this is kind of an extraordinary event. I wouldn't want to make this a habit,
No,
since
definitely
we're
not.
getting past COVID and material shortages and whatever else, review times, delays that we've seen.
Yeah,
So
yeah, I was out for like 4
that
months.
caveat out there.
For anybody who's listening. Anybody from the board have any questions or concerns?
No, and again, to Joe's point about this being a unique event, these are already prior submitted and approved, and they're not being modified or altered at all. So I don't think we're setting any precedent that we need to worry about.
I agree. That being the case, we've got a resolution here for Willow Rise Townhomes reapproval. And Road, today's date, 6/22/21, application number 07FS 2021. Whereas the planning board made the following findings of fact, and there are 5. Now therefore be it resolved at the request of Walt Baker, DSB Engineers and Architects, 2394 Ridgeway Avenue, Suite 201, Rochester, New York, on behalf of Bella Estates LLC, for reapproval of major subdivision entitled Willow Rise Townhomes, drawn by DSB Engineers, dated May 2020, received by the Planning Board July 1st, 2020, last revised September 3rd, 2020, received by the Planning Board June 7th, 2021. Planning Board application number 07FS 2021 be approved with the following conditions. Conditions to be addressed prior to the chairman's signature on the site plan. 1, that no final signatures will be given on the plans until all legal and engineering fees have been paid as per fee reimbursement local law adopted November 25, 1996. 2, that before the planning board chairman signs the approved film originals, the developer shall submit 2 copies of electronic files to the town. Copies of electronic files shall be forwarded to the town engineer to confirm that the data on the electronic files is the same as the approved subdivision plans. 3, and that Section 4 standard approval conditions for all subdivisions, major and minor, of the design and construction standards be met. 4, that the comments in a letter dated August 25, 2020, Labella Associates be addressed. And 5, that the comments from Zaretki and Associates be addressed, Zaretsky Associates be addressed. Ongoing conditions, number 1, that the major subdivision comply with the Town of Victor Design and Construction Standard Land Development, including Section 4. 2, 2-year maintenance bond shall be provided by the developer to the town for all improvements to be offered to the town for dedication. Maintenance bond shall be written by a surety licensed to do business in New York State, and they shall be in the amount of 10% of the final construction cost as determined by the engineer for the town. 3, that approved subdivision maps, including conservation easements, lot consolidations, and lot line adjustments, shall be submitted in digital format, AutoCAD 2002 or latest version, effective January 1, 2004, per Town Board Resolution Number 193 of June 23, 2003. 4, should an underground stream be encountered during construction, the developer is to address the encroachment and impact to the underground stream to the satisfaction of the town engineer. 5, that a pre-construction meeting shall be held prior to the start of construction, and be it further resolved that the planning board secretary distribute the planning board's approval letter. Do we have a motion to approve?
With that amendment, the note,
With the amendment we discussed about,
okay, I'll make the motion for that.
Joe makes, Logan makes the motion, I have a second.
I'll second.
Al Galina makes the second. Any, okay, who's in favor? Aye?
Aye.
5-0.
All right, thank you very much. Nate?
And we do have 2 that the public hearings are still open. So the first one is Scout Path. Speakers are requested to limit comments to 3 minutes. They'll be asked to conclude comments at 5 minutes if they haven't stopped. Scout Path is on Aldridge Road, application 03PS 2021. It's zoned residential 2. Tax map number 16.00-1-2.120, owner to Hollander Design Incorporated. Applicant is requesting approval to subdivide the 8.84 acre parcel into 5 building lots, ranging in size from .813 acres to 5.09 acres. The home locations will be accessed via 2 shared common driveways. Sketch plan was acknowledged on February 25, 2020. And there had staff comments are waiting for code. And from the fire marshal, Lot 3 will require a private hydrant or residential sprinkler system. Okay, step right up.
We did get
That code?
at the last minute.
Oh, here.
Good evening. Maybe an informality here, Ernie, but when I walked in, I was surprised my neighbor from Dry Road, Scott Reinhardt's here, and I think he had an update from the Trails Committee, and if it's okay, maybe he'd like to come up and
Sure,
do that.
you can speak when the time comes,
Okay, very good.
when you're done.
Very good. Well, I'm happy to be here tonight to talk about the Scout Path project. As Ernie mentioned, we were here about 18 months ago, and we completed the sketch plan process at that time. We've got about 8.8 acres to work with here. And recall at the sketch plan, we went through a process of evaluating the feasibility of a cluster subdivision. And as part of that process, we spent a meeting or two laying out a dedicated road and what the configuration of the project could look like as a dedicated road project that yielded about 9 lots. I think there was good consensus at that time that while it was a doable project, it didn't really meet the basis of design goals that we had for the project, which were more of a minimal, large lot configuration that utilized the existing infrastructure along Aldridge Road, specifically the desirable sanitary sewer connection that exists there. We are located in an R2 zoning with a C overlay, which that yields a 1 acre aggregate lot yield. So at 8.8 acres, we're talking about a potential 8-lot subdivision. We've settled comfortably here with this configuration of 5 lots. The site is unique in that it is still a sort of a rural area, but has the full utilities of sanitary sewer, water, gas, electric. And our approach here is to really respect that larger lot development that already exists in the area. And as I mentioned, really make use of what is accessible existing infrastructure along Aldridge Road. We've met with the Conservation Board through a Zoom meeting a couple weeks ago. We reviewed the configuration of the conservation easement and revisited sort of its unique configuration where we're wrapping the conservation easement between the lots 1 and 2 and 5 and 4 to preserve that natural tree buffer that exists today. And I think that that's evident as well by the conservation easements configuration to not only preserve the more mature wooded areas in the back of the lot, but also the steeper slopes that exist there. We received the comments from reviewing agencies and in particular the town engineer comments and code comments. And there are a bulk of technical issues that we'll be working through with those folks. But I think there are 3 real foundational basis of design issues that we should talk about tonight. And those revolve around the cluster subdivision, the driveway spacing that we're able to obtain with this configuration, and the intermittent channel that aligns along the east boundary of our property. So it would be my hope that tonight we can obtain some consensus on those 3 points so that we can move forward with resolving the technical issues. As I mentioned, they're foundational to our basis of design, our configuration.
We have some comments from LaBella. Wes, do you want to fill us in on those?
Yeah, I can do that. Just to be sure, is there anybody here from do you want to open it up to the public? If there's any comments from the public?
Well, I think maybe we all ought to hear what you have to say.
Okay, we'll do that. Sure. LaBella did issue a letter dated June 21st, and we do have some comments. Most of them are technical in nature. The second comment we made was in regard to the access management chapter of the town code, which we've discussed in previous meetings on other projects. This is another example of where a waiver is being requested because of Section 55-6, paragraph D, would seem to require 440 feet of separation distance between driveways. And that's, given the existing zoning regulations for the R2 zoning district, minimum lot frontage being 100 feet, sometimes it's difficult to achieve this 440-foot separation when you're out there on the more rural or even suburban residential streets. So I really don't see an issue with that, given some of the past practice that we've seen here at the planning board. The riverine wetland, we did note that there's an intermittent creek identified on the NWI mapper, and those, I guess, my understanding is that they're regulated by the U.S. Army Corps of Engineers, and there's a stormwater management facility located adjacent to the intermittent creek, and we just want to be sure that the Army Corps of Engineers wouldn't have an issue with the proximity of the stormwater management facility, and just be sure that there aren't any permitting requirements that would need to be achieved prior to development of the project. With regard to the conservation easement, I can point out our comment was more along the lines for the west side of the existing project parcel. There's a 10-foot wide conservation easement here along the boundary. I mean, that's fine. It's helps account for the 50% open space requirement that the town has. But is that the best placement for that easement? Would you rather see it, the square footage that's in this area, maybe go to the back of one of the other lots? There are setback requirements, right, for each zoning district, and I think the side lot line setback requirement is 15 feet here. Wondering if that's the best location for a conservation easement. Might be fine, especially if the Conservation Board has already weighed in. As far as planning goes, let's see. One of the notes for the common driveway detail, and I'm sure Mr. Hollander has seen our comment, is that the surface of the common driveway wouldn't need to be paved with asphalt until it serves greater than 2 homes. And we noted that the westernmost common driveway will serve no more than 2 homes. So I don't know if the planning board has a desire as to whether or not to require paving at a certain time for that particular driveway, or if maybe Scott might have a proposal to modify the note to some degree there. Otherwise, things are pretty technical in nature, and we've still got to get through the environmental review with seeker. The applicant did provide a long-form EAF, which is nice. It provides a lot of information, and we can get through that at a later time.
Scott told your name, but I'm not in here anymore. Yeah. Did you want to discuss this one?
Not this one, no. I'm here for Victor Hiking Trails. I'm sorry if I didn't know I was supposed to sign in or something. I was told to come.
Well, it's okay, you can sign in now if you want.
I already signed in on that list.
Okay. But you're not here for this project?
No. Just wants to, he's from the Victor.
Or just wants to,
He was going to introduce
okay.
himself, but he can do it at the end.
All right.
We're going to torture him through the presentation, I guess. You can come with us, we're going to.
Okay. Well, anything from the board? Al, you got anything?
No questions.
Hey, Joe?
I do have a question, Scott, about the grading plan, and it looks a little optimistic, but in terms of the amount of area you're disturbing for each potential home, I don't know, these layouts are kind of generic probably. So what is, I guess, concerning, but what stood out for me is where you have the stormwater collection system pond. I guess it's a seasonal or not seasonal, but, by event, right? It's not a standing water thing necessarily, but it creates this small lot for that one house. And so that, you have all this property way uphill. I looked at, well, could we slide it uphill? Well, no, I mean, it's a pretty big hill going up the rest of the way. So is there enough room for this house and property, given that the stormwater detention pond is right next to the house? Maybe you could address that
Yeah.
philosophy on that site.
So that's an 0.8 acre lot. And we're dealing with, zoning that would allow 25,000 square feet. So we're about 140% of that requirement. And I was careful when I was doing the layout to be sensitive to, what's going to be built there. And I think it's a function of the right type of house. This isn't going to support a ranch that's 80 feet wide. This is going to be the right type of house. And somebody who wants to have that kind of amenity in their side yard. So the intent is to present it that way. And I'm speaking for Gerber too, and the experience that I've had with Gerber, maybe John will want to add to that. There are people who are looking for that type of situation with minimum lot maintenance, but maximum natural feature. So that kind of fits into that category for us. It isn't something we'll push on the wrong person. Your point about grading is well taken, because at Scout Reserve across the street, the approach to the lot layouts with the general or the generic footprint, because we don't know the architecture until people come forward with what they want to build. It is a bit optimistic, right? And I think the experience from across the street is that particularly where we're extending a lot of utilities deep into the site, more disruption occurs. So we'll work with that through our erosion control plan, just to make sure that we aren't tipping over any thresholds. We're far under the thresholds for the 5 acre disturbance, the 1 acre or the 5 acre stormwater thresholds for permanent water quality components. Our detention pond here is required by the design criteria, the town's design criteria. So it's a peak attenuating style pond. It doesn't provide a water quality component. So the intent is for it to have a dry bottom. And our soils are such that we don't have the hydric soils that we have across the street. And we'll, potentially, I guess, look at techniques we can work with in the bottom of the pond. I don't see any, I think that there's enough infiltration there that the pond will be reasonably dry and provide some useful area over time.
So is that piece on that lot number, I don't know what the name is?
I believe.
Okay, is that stormwater detention pond on that parcel? Do they own it? Or is this something the town gets ownership of to maintain?
Yeah.
The town will not take it.
I didn't think they would.
It'll have an easement on it that will run with the property.
Okay, so who maintains that?
Similar to the Scout Reserve project, we'll form an HOA for the entirety of the project, and the maintenance of the pond will be part of the HOA.
Okay, so all 5 homes will be responsible for the cost of maintenance of that pond?
Yeah, and in the stormwater review, it's been requested that we'll provide that maintenance agreement. We provided one for Scout Reserve, so it's familiar, and we'll follow the process there.
And there's guidelines for those owners for the HOA as to when they need to do and what they need to do, that sort of thing?
Yeah, it's really clear.
Okay, I just want to make sure it's crystal clear, because, okay, you're all responsible for maintaining it. Oh, great, we can mow it, and that's all. If it collects silt and all that over time, it's got to be cleaned out, right?
Yeah, so that's the perspective that the agreement really follows. Is it isn't so much like the conservation easement really restricts the use. There's the restriction of you can't build a shed in the middle of the pond, right? But the agreement really calls out the steps for inspection that the devices are still working in perpetuity, as well as maintenance removal of accumulated sediment and silt.
Does the town code enforcement inspect it, Kim, or is it the responsibility for the homeowner association to evaluate it annually, for instance, or something?
There's a provision in there for it to be evaluated every 3 years.
Okay,
Yeah.
all right.
Yeah, and so our stormwater program manager will send out a letter. He's done that this year, actually, with many throughout the town.
Mhm.
Send out a letter. They need to supply a report about the pond, and then we go from there. If there's maintenance needed, then we
Okay, all right. Sounds great, thanks. All I got, Scott, thanks.
Welcome, thank you.
Okay. Scott to Scott.
I wondered if you could just give me some clarification on the shading on the drawing, what the darker shading means and the lighter shading. Is the lighter shading a conservation easement and the darker shading an easement?
Drainage easement, that's right.
It's drainage easement, okay.
And also, it is confusing. There are 3 different easements in play here. The lighter shading is exclusively conservation easement. But the darker shading could be either a access and maintenance easement, so that would be for the shared access over both of the driveways and utility extensions, or a stormwater easement.
I see. And so is the conservation easement overlapping the drainage easement on the pond area?
It is, yeah.
Okay. And that's okay with the Conservation Board?
We could review it again with them if it isn't clear to them, but it's not a point that I really went over in a lot of detail. I'd be happy to ask for that clarification.
I didn't know if we had a protocol on that or anything. You would know you were formerly on the Conservation Board.
Not necessarily, no.
I think, based on the sketch that you presented a while back and what you've shown here, I think, you've complied with what we asked of you last time, in terms of the access. I think we have, some conversations to be had concerning the access guidelines and some potential revisions, but I think, you've done what we asked you to do in terms of consolidating the lots and making only 2 access points versus more. And you contrasted this with a single access, publicly dedicated cul-de-sac terminus road previously. So I think you've taken our comments to heart from what we had before, and I think this reflects a good design. Admittedly, things are a little compact, but I think that's what you're looking for from a marketing perspective and from a clustering provision. You're minimizing the infrastructure, minimizing the cost of the infrastructure. So I think generally the plan is okay.
Thank you.
Bill?
I have a few comments on comments from the Conservation Board, actually. First is the unattractiveness, if you will, of the required conservation markers on the 4x4 post with the markers on top. We dealt with that on the Conservation Board a few years ago, and I can't think of the subdivision, but we allowed, I think, boulders or something as an alternative to the posts. And I think those are, much more visually pleasing. I think a virtual marker is kind of out of the question. The point of the marker is to delineate what you can and cannot do, or where you can and cannot work. So you might want to discuss the possibility of using boulders or something. I think they're much more attractive. I do take, I have some concerns about motorized vehicles. We're using the conservation easements around the intermittent stream. We're using them around the retention pond, and we're using them to protect steep slopes. And ATVs will rip all that stuff up. So allowing the motorized vehicles in that area, I would look for something that's more restrictive, frankly. I can't even think what I would consider acceptable if I'm thinking about protecting a steep slope. I know, having been on dirt bikes and ATVs for years, they can rip that stuff up pretty quickly in terms of the slopes. Snowmobiles maybe less so, but you still got to create a trail through all of that stuff. So it seems that a motorized vehicle would be too restrictive. A footpath might give you some recreational flexibility there, and I think that would probably be more appropriate for the rural area, the rural character of it, and again, with the water and the slopes. So those would be some things I would ask you to take a look at, Scott.
Okay. Can I just follow up with maybe a question to dig a little deeper there, Joe?
Yeah, that'd be great.
The previous project we did had a combination of conservation easement and open space easement. Would it be acceptable to maybe look at heavier restrictions over the areas that are sensitive, say slopes over 15% and within 50 feet of the intermittent stream, and leave open the possibility for super passive use of motorized vehicles in the open space? And we talked through this with the Conservation Board, that maybe there would be some sort of renewable lease for that use on the recreational vehicles, meaning if it becomes a problem or a nuisance, there's a mechanism to remove it.
Yeah, I think all things can be considered, certainly.
Okay.
Who would monitor? You'd say the HOA would monitor the renewable?
I think ultimately we would look for maybe the Conservation Board themselves to be able to be the agency that would renew the special condition of the motorized vehicles in the open space only easement area. But it could definitely be part of our HOA restrictions too.
Okay, and then if you're having different levels or distances on, different types of easements, that's a whole ton more markers too.
It is, and just a follow-up thought on the virtual, it was brainstorm, right? And I don't think it was intended that the virtual markers would be the exclusive type of marker. Really, it's the intermediate markers, the ones that are every 200 feet between turns in the easement, that sort of stack up as being unsightly. I think the corners definitely should have some sort of monumentation in the field, but if there was a mechanism that wasn't a sign, I think the boulders are a good idea for intermediates as well. But, a step further back from that would be this virtual marker idea where, I can find a manhole in the middle of the medical center on my cell phone it's that type of accuracy is available with, some apps that might solve some of the problems with signs and signs not lasting, forever, that type of thing. So just a little follow-up on that.
Sure. Very good. Thank you.
Yep, thank you.
Well, the problem with virtual is that somebody has to get their phone out or go to their computer to find it.
Mm-hmm.
There's a boulder out there, no doubt that's what it is.
You're right, absolutely.
Anybody else have anything tonight? Wes, anything else?
I guess I did have a bit of a question, and I guess we've touched on it a bit already, is the content of the conservation easement. Like, I didn't know if what was depicted in the light shading maybe was going to be considered as just open space where it would be allowed for the property owner to mow. Looks like it's going to preserve some trees, so maybe mowing and clearing wouldn't be allowed. And then it seems like there's some discussion on whether or not to allow motorized vehicles and the conservation easements, so.
And I think what Scott just mentioned there with maybe layered approach, that you would have most restrictive on some of the steep slopes and around the water. And then I know in the past, we've had some, you refer to them as management, where we allow the long grasses to be cut twice a year, for instance. So there are various ways that you can word the conservation easements to accomplish both the town and Scott's goals, and that's probably what we would look for when it comes back, is how you would want to manage that.
Definitely don't want any clear cutting of the wooded areas, right? That's a primary goal of whatever type of easement we come up with. If it's open space, it'll still be protecting the trees that are there in that easement, but it's the use. It's like, so I got 5 acres, I want to, run around on my four-wheeler, where can I do it? And, that's really what we want to kind of work out, because there are folks that do it and do it respectfully, and we just want to have that conversation up front so we know what we can offer.
Well, I recall one a few years ago where the homeowner took a chainsaw to the markers, cut them flush to the ground.
Yeah, we don't want to do that.
All the more reason for boulders.
Yeah.
Okay.
Public comment.
Yes, anybody have any comments sitting out there?
John with Gerber Homes.
Please step up.
Just wanted to introduce myself, John with Gerber Homes. I work with Scott on, he runs a lot of the designs by us, and we do review house pad sizes, clearing areas. So we are working closely together to try and, come up with a project that's desirable both, to conservation and to the clients that we're working with. And I think Scott's done a good job on this one. You mentioned, about the size of the first home site, number 5 there. We did review that, and, based on what a lot of our clients are looking to, have a rural setting and 0.8 acre lot with some detention facility isn't objectionable. Want to say hello?
Thanks, okay. And the other, Scott, did you want to? Yeah, come on.
We'll speak not about their project.
No, it's okay.
And it is unusual that I'm sitting next to my next-door neighbor and the man who built my beautiful home, too. So, didn't plan that. My name is Scott Reinhardt, and I live on Dry Road. My wife Sherry and I live there, and we've been there 5 years. And we are the house down Dry. Remember, this is my second planning committee meeting. And the first one was right before we built the house. And so I came here to introduce myself and get used to my face. I'm going to be here at all the meetings, not here as a threat, not here as I'm here to advocate for the trails. I used to be a school principal, and I retired, and been here, like I said, 5 years, and I was looking for something to get involved in. And when I was a school principal, I was lucky enough to be principal of a nationally recognized middle school in a nationally recognized district. And so as part of that, I got to travel a lot and evaluate schools and present at a lot of conferences. And so I learned how to recognize quality. And so when I wanted to decide what groups I wanted to be part of here, it was hard to pick in Victor because you have a lot of quality here. This town's got good bones. And I got involved with Victor Hiking Trails because one of the things that stood right out to me right away is the collection of trails you have here. It's 65 miles right now. We just actually installed a new trail over the weekend that's going to be open. Grand opening will be in the fall, but it's over by Village on the Park. Beautiful grove of trees. And my involvement in Victor Hiking Trails is their trail master. And they asked me if I wanted to be trail master. I had no idea what a trail master was or does. It sounds like a new network series, So I got involved with being a trail master whose main job is to create new trails. And so what I found out is nobody else wanted that job because I'm the one that has to contact property owners and ask them if we can put a trail through their property. And that's something that's difficult to do. And actually private property owners aren't too bad. It's the developers who are more difficult. And when I say difficult, they're polite and they're nice, but honestly, they don't have anything in it except, and I understand their viewpoint, we want to build houses, sell them. The trails can be worried about by the people who buy the houses. But the problem is that once the houses are built, then it's much more difficult to take care of the trails. Now, as part of my job, I read over the master plan for the town, and I read the master plan for Parks and Recreation. That Parks and Recreation master plan is quite a document. I mean, I actually enjoyed reading it, because master plans aren't exactly, it's a good thing to put you to sleep sometimes, but the master plan for Parks and Recreation says that there should be a trail within a mile of every point in Victor. It also says that all the trails should be connected. So that, as the trail master of Victor Hiking Trails, I see that as a decades-long project. And it's a vision for the future. And part of the job, having been a school principal, I know what it was like every day dealing with one task after another. The hard part is clinging and hanging on and enacting the visions. The vision for the town of Victor is to have a network of trails that anybody could take anywhere they want to. Whereas my thing as a principal, I'd like to see kids be able to get to school without having to ride a bus. I mean, imagine if they could, but I wouldn't want my kid crossing 96, which is a whole nother topic, but we can connect this town. Now, the problem, and what I'm asking of you is just to keep it in mind. Victor Hiking Trails is a remarkable organization, and I'm new enough so I can brag about them and not be talking about me. They have an incredibly large group of people who are very dedicated. They're out there right now working on trails, doing maintenance. Not many towns have volunteers like that. These trails, just in the month of January, had more people using it than all last year. These trails are busy trails. They're being used. They are an asset to the community. If I was a developer, I would want to sell that aspect of it, saying this is a town that you can live in where you can walk or ride your bike anywhere you want to go. That's a selling point.
Well, unfortunately, the name Trail Town USA is already taken.
Yeah, we're better than them. And honestly, I've walked our trails too. We do a better job of maintaining our trails. And we have lots of other towns that call upon people like Chauncey Young and say, how do you maintain your trail so well? And we do workshops for other towns on how to do it. So where we are right now is we've met with Jack Marin. We're going to be meeting with the town board. And we're going to be talking about how Victor Hiking Trails, which is an asset that is free, can help the town of Victor make this vision a reality. And all I ask of you is keep it in mind. I will be here at the meetings. If there's something you want to talk to me about after the meeting, or there's something you want to, have me as a liaison from the group transfer back to our group, be more than happy to do it. But we are going to keep moving forward until we can make his vision a reality. And I think it's a win-win for everybody, honestly.
Well, thank you.
Okay, thank you.
That being the end of the agenda, we would entertain a motion to adjourn. Al?
I'll move.
Motion. Joe Limbeck seconds. All in